Welcome to UK Federal Credit Union's Mindful Money podcast, where we share expert tips and inspiring stories to keep your finances in check while maintaining your zen.
Welcome to the Mindful Money podcast here at UK Federal Credit Union. I'm Morgan Horn, and I'm the digital marketing specialist here. And today I'm with Shellie May, who's the executive director of the Office of Senior Protection and Mediation. And Shellie, if you want to share a little bit about what you do.
Well, thank you, Morgan. I appreciate you having us on today. Again, it's Shellie May. I'm the Executive Director of the Office of Senior Protection in the Kentucky Attorney General's Office. And our primary focus is on education and outreach for scams and fraud, and teaching individuals throughout the Commonwealth about those scams and fraud, what to look for, what are the next steps if you become a victim, what are the things to look for in order not to become a victim, and just really trying to, reach out to the community and do different seminars, classes, and teach everybody about what we're seeing in our office.
Okay. Great. And I know you were here doing your presentation not so long ago, making sure we're all informed about things. This podcast is going to be mostly about holiday shopping. As you know, the holidays are approaching. We're all going to be online shopping, getting things for our loved ones, and we're all going to be spending. So can you talk a little bit about kind of how scammers are targeting more so during the holiday season? What kind of things should we be on the lookout for?
Well, I will tell you that they're targeting every day. And unfortunately, it used to be you would see it during like holidays or different times of giving. For example, like a Giving Tuesday, which is actually coming up on December the 3rd. You're going to get bogus, not in existent nonprofit reach outs that are scammers, just looking for you to make a donation in the name of a good cause. And so just always double check those resources by checking them on a website that is a known official website. You have to be careful when you Google things nowadays because the scammers are now paying for that number one spot up there. So you might Google something and it might pop up and you think that first one is what you're looking for. You click on it and you start looking through it and you realize this is not what I am looking for. So get out of that, use the back button, X out of it, start over, and really just try to find that the official number or web address for that entity. You can, check on a lot of different things. There's charity registrations that you can check that are national charities, and you can see if they're legit charities there. But when it comes to the holiday season, more and more people now since COVID are shopping online anyway. But we recommend that, you shop local, shop on your trusted websites, things that you already know. Do your research, your due diligence on unfamiliar companies or brands. Check prices on multiple different shopping sources, Amazon, whatever it may be. You can check those out and compare those prices. Make sure that if it's too good to be true, then it's usually too good to be true. We also recommend that you carefully read what their return policies are. What is it that, how are they going to exchange it? Are they going to refund it?
So what about, there's a lot of people now shopping on, for example, like TikTok Shop or Instagram Shop or Facebook Marketplace even. What ways can people kind of stay safe when they choose to shop on those types of platforms?
Well, we are not like big fans of those, and we actually try to steer people away from those types of things. Because we're finding that there's actually, I was going to say, if it's somebody that you know and you trust, well, we're even starting to see an influx now of duplicated Facebook pages. So you and I might be friends on Facebook, and you will all of a sudden you've got your car for sale, you have, some furniture, you might have jewelry, what have you, for sale on your Facebook page. And I'm like, hey, Morgan, I didn't know that you were, selling your car. And you're like, I'm not. Well, it's a duplicated Facebook page, and somebody is selling things, and they post them, but they don't even exist. So then you pay for them through Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, Zelle, and then next thing you know, it's not a legitimate item. It's not a legitimate Facebook account. One of the biggest things that we're seeing an influx now, this year in 2024, my office started handling a lot of complaints we've always handled them, but now we actually have a direct link to Meta and Facebook and Instagram. So we are seeing, when I ran the first quarter, the first 6 months numbers, we had already taken 250-ish complaints on Facebook hacks. And we have actually been able to successfully get those back by working with Meta through a process in an online submission that we work with them on to get those restored. And so most of the time, if it's just an account that has been hacked or taken over by a scammer, then we can get those back for you. If it's something that has been shut down because it's in violation of Meta's, rules and guidelines, then that's something that is not easily done on our end. But for those hacks, we can usually get that back for you through a process that we have. But you really have to watch. When I go out, unfortunately, we are just living in a society that it becomes more complex and complicated to trust and think that things are worthy and trustworthy, that they're legit, because they're just not anymore. And so you really, we recommend that you really do your due diligence and really check out where you're buying. Shopping local always helps as well. Finding those established brick and mortars.
Yeah, and it's especially hard too, especially when it comes to Facebook Marketplace. And any online Craigslist or whatever you're using, you have to be careful about sending people money, especially when they're using Venmo or some kind of app, because once you send that money is gone. You're not going to get it back. It's not insured money. It's gone. So some of the more kind of common online things that I think we were just recently talking about is people buying URLs that are similar to businesses, that are maybe just misspelled slightly, or they look very, very similar to the actual URL, but it's not. Is that something that you guys are seeing more and more of?
We do. We see a lot, and it's not just with a URL. I had a gentleman who reached out to me from Jefferson County, and he was in the process of him and his wife closing on their retirement dream home, and it was back in 2022, I believe, early 23. And so things were still, due to COVID, a lot of closings, a lot of things were still being done virtually. And so he had gotten an email from when he looked at the email, it appeared to be it was from his closing attorney. And it had steps on what he needed to do for his closing the next day, where he needed to wire his closing costs to. And when he went on, he did the wire transfer. He started going through it, and he kind of got this sick feeling in the pit of his stomach. And he realized that, let's just say it was Cindy at LouisvilleLawyers.com. Well, Cindy was his closing attorney, but Cindy at LouisvilleLawyers.com, Louisville only had one L. And so they're taking little things like that and just really kind of tweaking them just a little bit. So you really have to kind of take a look at that. Hover over, if you take your cursor or your mouse and you hover over that name, it will display the entire email address. Sometimes you'll get some from, I use these a lot in my PowerPoint presentations, and they're actual images of things that I've received. So like you get something, your subscription is going to be renewed for $199. Click here if you don't want to renew. Well, when you click there, you're clicking to a scammer, and then the scammer will ask you for different types of stuff. But when you look at it and you hover over, you'll see that it's not from, XYZ business. It's from PiercyPenelope5@gmail.com, which if it was a legitimate employee of a business, they would not have a Piercy Penelope at Gmail account. So yeah, you really have to kind of watch those and again, do your due diligence and look at those things. Be very cautious.
Yeah, and they're even, going so deep to know, they know a lot about you, more than you think they know about you. They know your boss's name, they know where you work, they know your kids' names, your parents' names, whoever, and they use those people, impersonate those people to make you think, like someone's in trouble or you're in trouble at work or something else is going on that's not good. And any kind of urgency, I think, is a major red flag for a scam going on.
I agree 100%, Morgan. That's what we see as well. We see that the scam and fraudsters, they are trying to elicit some type of emotional response from you. Mm-hmm. And so we always try to say, practice the pause. Mm-hmm. Just kind of, okay, well, thanks for letting me know. We see a lot where scammers are calling and they're using caller ID spoofing. Mm-hmm. So they appear to be from, say, a government entity like your local sheriff's department or police department, and they'll tell you that you have outstanding warrants, or your grandchild is in, danger, needs help. And AI is making things very, very complex as well, because now we're being told it's only about a 13 to 15 second recording of your voice before you can that they can actually replicate what you would sound like. And so it does become, something that is very emotional. And what we tell people if somebody says that they're calling and there's warrants out for you, we'll just say, okay, well, come and get me. Mm-hmm. Because I can promise you that there is very few officers out there that we're going to call ahead and let you know that they're coming to pick you up.
Right. Seems kind of counterproductive.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So something I also saw in your PowerPoint was that Amazon was one of the most impersonated businesses, because like we said, that's very common with the renewal subscription emails, but also Amazon saying that you made a purchase and there's information on your purchase. And when you click on the documents or the links, then, that gives whoever access to your computer, your information. And so that's also something, that Amazon is a kind of a red flag. Of course, we all shop there. I shop on
Absolutely.
Amazon, but through trusted methods.
I have shopped with Amazon. I've been a Prime member for, probably 10 years or close to, and have had very successful, good luck with them. But I will tell you that I have received those text messages. When I go out and I ask, who has received that Amazon, text message? Just about everyone in the room has. And it's because they know that people use that very frequently. And so it's easy for them to try to duplicate that and put out like you said, an email, text message. And what we recommend is, again, don't answer that email. We tell people, do not click. Mm-hmm. Do not click. Go to, if I get one of those, when I get one of those, I typically will hit, delete it and report it, mm-hmm. because you can do that on your phone. And then I will actually go to my Amazon app, log into my account, mm-hmm. and double check and make sure, do I have any purchases that I didn't make, and look at it from that standpoint. And again, it goes back to what I mentioned earlier on checking that legit website, mm-hmm. going to the known official website and double checking to make sure, using your login and not clicking on a link that has been provided to you by what is potentially a scammer.
Right. So for example, our website, like if someone were to buy a URL that's very similar, we try to prevent that by purchasing similar URLs like many other businesses do. But if you go on to one of these fake websites and you input your login information, that's giving whoever's running that scam website information to log into your real bank account. So now they've got that information. They can see everything you have. One of the things that we really are pushing on right now is that we will not text you to verify any purchases or anything like that. We will not call you and ask you for information out of the blue. We're not gonna, be contacting you. And anytime that you do get something from us, then it's always best to report it directly to us, so then we can take the proper steps to get it taken care of. One of the big tips that we want to talk about for holiday season, especially, is even if you don't have a UKFCU account, you can go online to your bank or credit union or whatever you're using and check your purchases after you've made them. Make sure that it's the correct amount of money. And with our online and mobile banking, that's easy to do from anywhere. And when it comes to getting those texts and stuff, you said just delete them. Is there a proper way, if you don't report it through your text necessarily or on your phone, is there a place to go and report that? Would that be something your office?
Well, we don't usually take those types of complaints. Usually it's something a little bit bigger, and then we will provide, we always recommend that you report any type of identity theft or scam or fraud to the FTC. They do an incredible job at tracking that. And what they will do is at the end of every year, they will go on and provide an annual report that gives an overall view of statistics and numbers broken down by the different types of scams and fraud, business impersonation, financial investments, all the way down to health and, medical scams, Medicaid, impersonations, things of that nature. And they will go on and they will provide each state with a really nice outlined data assessment of exactly what were your top 10 reported from the state of Kentucky to the FTC. And then they'll break it down into the age groups. For example, from ages 0 to 19, from the state for the whole entire U.S., I believe there was like $56 million reported in losses, and that 0 to 19 years of age. I'm like, well, where did they get that money? Right? And so it's really big. And since the pandemic, just in Kentucky alone, ages 60 plus have reported losing over $35 million to our office.
Wow.
And, that's huge, especially on, individuals that are on fixed incomes. I mean, it takes a hit to anyone, but, especially those that are on those, fixed incomes.
So is there a especially susceptible group of people who are being maybe more targeted by these scammers?
We see predominantly 60 and over. And typically, we feel like that's usually, and my guess is you all would probably agree, they're the ones with the nest eggs and they're in the retirement years and things of that nature. So a lot of times they're targeted because of that. Also, I believe that in, my years of doing this and my advocacy work, that a lot of times that generation is also a very caring and giving generation. And so you do see a lot of that, gift giving and things of that nature. And just if somebody's asking, then they have that faith, that belief in them that they are truly in need if they are really asking. And so, but we are seeing an increase in numbers from that 35 to 45 as well.
And something you touched on earlier with the nonprofits is that during times of like an emergency, like for example the hurricanes that just happened, you see such an increase in people trying to scam that are running fake accounts or fake charities. So it's really unfortunate that people are being taken advantage of when they're trying to be giving and help others. So in your PowerPoint you had a scam acronym.
I did.
So, and that's kind of
I do.
maybe the steps that one should follow
And you'd think that I would know it right off the top of my head, but I don't want to misspeak and give you that. But yeah, we took the letters from each letter of the word scam. And, we wanted people to have something that they could kind of just like look at and be, kind of like your stop, drop, and roll.
Yeah.
But so basically what we said was, for S is stop. Stop every time that you are asked to send money or give out your personal information. C is for check. Check that they are who they say they are by calling a published number or going to the official website. A is for act, and we want you to act by reporting to the Kentucky Office of the Attorney General, or reporting it to the FTC, IC3. You could, AARP also has a great scam website that you can report it to, the Better Business Bureau. So there's a lot of entities that you can, make them aware and report that, because the more we know about what scams are out there, the better it is for us, because we can educate. And if we don't know that XYZ scam has happened, then we can't teach and let people be aware of that. And then lastly, M is for mention it to other people. There's been several instances where we have talked about a type of scam at one of our speaking engagements, or we've partnered a lot with the AARP and the Department of Financial Institutions in doing scam jams this year. And I mean, we have been very successful in, touching just about every part of the Kentucky map in doing these. And it's funny when we talk about them, then all of a sudden what happens when you mention it, somebody will be like, you know what, I was just talking to Betty at book club, and Betty was telling me that she had gotten this call and this happened, and you know what, I just got that same call. And so that word of mouth and letting people be aware of what's happening, a lot of times, not a lot of times, we are finding that 1 in 44 people will actually report their scam. And a lot of times your elderly, they're afraid to, because they're afraid that their family members are going to think that they are not capable of taking care of their own affairs. So sometimes there's some fear about that. I've been scammed, and I do it every day. I'm a lot more cautious than I used to be before, coming into this role. But it is something that happens to anyone. And if you think that you're not going to be a victim, you're sadly mistaken, because it's going to happen eventually if it hasn't already.
I mean, I get emails or texts every day, calls. I mean, I think everybody pretty much at least once a day now gets something.
Well, it's funny because I've heard recently when I've been out and about that some of these people are getting these U.S. Customs email.
Oh.
Our text messages. And so today I got one on my personal cell phone, and it says, U.S. Customs, you have a USPS parcel being cleared due to the detection of an invalid zip code address. The parcel cannot be cleared. The parcel is temporarily detained. Please confirm the zip code and address information in this link before, in the next 24 hours. And I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll do that, right?
Yeah, right.
But
I'll
again, don't, and don't click. If you don't know it, don't respond. And when I'm out, I'm telling people, if you don't know who's calling you, don't answer it. Just don't answer it.
They'll leave a voicemail.
If it's important, they will leave a voice message. You're correct.
And then always, too, if you think, you mentioned the AI being able to recreate voices. If you do get a voicemail that sounds like someone you know from a number you don't know, call them on the number you know them and verify that they called you, or let them know so they can tell others. Someone has your voice and they're using it to call people so that they can let people know. It can be very scary. I've heard of some very scary situations that people have thought their loved ones are in, and it's that urgency, that scared, that vulnerability, I think, that makes people more susceptible, especially like you're saying, a bit of a more targeted age group.
Agreed.
So some other prevention methods that you might recommend, like two-factor authentication, setting up extra layers of protection. What kind of ways for online specifically could we make sure that our information is staying a little bit more safe?
You hit the nail right on the head. Two-factor authentication is huge, and a lot of banks are using them. The Facebook is actually starting to require them. If you already have a Facebook account, then they are recommending that you do it. All new Facebook accounts, I believe, it's already started to where you can't set it up without two-factor. And then the even if it's facial recognition on your phone or your computer, I just think that it adds that second layer. So for us, we use two-factor authentication, say for our work computers, so that we have sensitive information in there. This allows for us to, if I were to pull my laptop out here and try to log into the Wi-Fi that you all provide, I would get a, okay, is this you? And it gives me a pop-up, and I have to use my phone to get that, two-factor authentication app. I get a code, and I have to put that code in that is actually on my laptop into my phone. So if somebody is on a laptop or a computer somewhere else and they are trying to do it, and I get the alert on my phone, I can click a button and say, no, this is not me. And then that automatically goes into Microsoft and it shuts it down for us. Now, Apple has their two-factor authentication, but the Androids have it as well.
Right. And then also as far as passwords go, I for a long time was guilty of just reusing the same password over and over again. I think a lot of us are, it's easy to forget.
It is.
But it's better to use a phrase if you can rather than one word, because if someone can guess your password one time and you use that password for everything, then now they've got your password for probably everything. So, So one of the things that we would like to highlight too is that we do have card controls on our online and mobile banking. So you can go on and set spending limits for the day, for the month. You can also set where you want your card to be declined from. So if it's an international transaction, that will not go through. And also you get all kinds of alerts. So if that tries to charge your card, someone's trying to use my card in a place that I'm not. And that's strange. So then we would encourage you to report that directly to us, call us, let us know. So I think a lot of other financial institutions outside of UKFCU also have those features, which is a really great thing to have. So how do you see that impacting with people online shopping?
Totally agree with you. We recommend that consumers use their credit card over their debit card because there's more safeguards in place for your credit card. Your debit card is coming directly out of your checking account. So sometimes if you need that money, it takes longer to get that reestablished or put back into your account. A lot of financial institutions, and I'm sure you all are one of them, a lot of times they'll go automatically and put it in there pending the investigation and everything. But there's just more safeguards in place. So we recommend you use those, your credit card over your debit card. And you can always, a few days later, a week, when everything's cleared and everything, you can transfer that money over and pay it. So if you don't want to carry a balance, but we recommend that you take a look at those statements and make sure there's no duplication of things. Make sure there's something that you don't recognize. I'm a very big supporter of putting those safeguards that you mentioned into place, because you do get those alerts. You get the alerts. I get them when somebody uses my credit card at a gas station. If it's funny, my husband will go to the store, and anything over a certain amount, already, if he makes his Costco run, I get that alert. And he'll come home and he'll go, oh, just so you know, I spent XYZ. And I'm like, I already know. And so they're great. They're great safeguards. And, and to that point, we were telling people to check those bank statements and things of that nature. The other thing that they can check is they can check their credit. Mm-hmm. And they can go to annualcreditreport.com and get a free credit report. Now, if you do that, that is the type of report that does not impact your credit score. Mm-hmm. It's not like purchasing something and having a credit check done that way. That does, I believe still go to your, towards your credit score. But when you are actually just checking it for the purposes, because of the scam and the fraud levels that we are seeing, a lot of them are providing those for free. And you can get them unlimited. So, once a month, check your credit report. Make sure everything's okay. Make sure if something comes up and you feel like you've had identity theft through your holiday shopping, go ahead and reach out to all three of the credit bureaus. You can put a freeze or a hold on your credit. We're actually starting to recommend those freezes because nothing can be purchased with your information without you being made aware of it. And if it's something that you're purchasing, then you can go on and you can what we call thaw it and then refreeze it after you've done that purchase.
So can you tell us a little bit maybe about what resources you guys can provide, either for victims of fraud or education for people who would like, just to prevent it from happening?
So what we'll do is if you are a victim of a scam or fraud, identity theft, if you go onto our website, ag.ky.gov/scams, then you can actually report your scam on there. And it's a online form that you can fill out on your computer. If you do not have a computer and don't know how to do it online, you can reach out to our office by calling the Attorney General's office, and we will get you one put in the mail. And then you could go in line and submit that. And then we will provide you with resources. Next steps. If this is the situation that has happened to you, then these are the recommendations that we think that you should follow in order to protect yourself from further victimization or how to get your identity back. Things of that nature. The other thing that we do a lot of speaking engagements. I do a lot of, I have one coming up in Northern Kentucky. I have a widows group in E-Town coming up. I'll be in Versailles coming up next week. And so there's a lot of assisted livings and senior care homes that have requested me to come and talk to their residents. Recently, I worked with one of the hospital associations and a lot of caregivers that from different businesses and entities, whether it's a physical therapy, occupational therapy, social work. It's just kind of an eclectic group of professionals that are centered around our senior groups. And they had me come out and talk to them so that they could take back some of the information back to their institutions and businesses to pass it along. And so education and outreach is one of our biggest goals in the Office of Senior Protection. And I will say that even though that title is Office of Senior Protection, it is a little bit misleading because we do serve all ages, and it's not just seniors. So we can talk to any group, civic or, private, whatever, and business groups, whatever, banking associations, mortgage associations. I've talked to the realtor groups before because there's a lot of real estate scams. And but I will say the biggest thing is always remember, during the holiday season, we typically like to give gift cards. And we need to remember, I encourage everyone to really stay focused on the fact that gift cards are for gifts. They are not for pain. They are not, typically, and one of the things that I have here is if they're demanding that you pay for something with a gift card or by cryptocurrency, things of that nature, those are typically people that are going to be scammers.
Right.
Gift cards are for gifts only.
Right. I'm going to check this on, and then we're going to continue without this guy. He's still going, so we're
okay.
Good. And now we'll wrap it up. Okay. And do you have any resources on your guys' website that may be accessible to people if they wanted to freshen up or look at?
There's different links to like the FTC, scam reports, things to watch for. We've done consumer alerts before, and I think we're going to try to get more back into doing those where on a regular, weekly, bi-weekly time frame that we are putting out on social media a consumer alert, letting people know here's an example of what we've seen recently. We've had, an influx of these, so why don't we put something that's just kind of informational out there just as a resource or red flag to consumers in the Commonwealth.
And so the FTC would be a great resource to go online.
Perfect. I actually have signed up for the FTC alerts, and so I get daily emails. It may be once a day, it may be 10 times a day, and they will say, okay, I'm a Marriott Rewards member. Had no idea that Marriott had a data breach until I received a FTC article that was talking about a settlement with the Marriott Rewards data breach. And I was like, oh, wow, okay, and so there's a lot of things that you learn and new types of scams that they're seeing. They'll put things out about what to watch for, how to avoid, and steps to correct if you become a victim, to various types of things. We talked about holiday scams. A lot of this stuff, I have not seen one recently, but a lot of the things that I mentioned, they'll have on their website from time to time. The credit bureaus will have tips for holiday shopping as well, and how to avoid scams.
Okay.
They'll have them for natural disasters, like you were mentioning. And so, yeah, the FTC is a very, very good resource.
Okay. Well, Shellie, thank you so much for coming on the Mindful Money podcast. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having us.
And prevention of fraud is being aware of fraud. I think me and you talked about this is the most important thing, is to know what to look for so you are not a victim of fraud. But yeah, thank you so much.
Totally agree. Thank you. Yeah. Appreciate it, Morgan.
Yeah.
Mindful Money Podcast is brought to you by UK Federal Credit Union for entertainment purposes only. Its content is not to be regarded as legal or financial advice. The views expressed by guests are their own. Their appearance on the podcast does not imply an endorsement by UK Federal Credit Union of them, their views, or any entity they represent. Views and opinion expressed by UK Federal Credit Union employees and or guests are those of the employees and or guests and do not necessarily reflect the views of UK Federal Credit Union or its board of directors. To learn more about UK Federal Credit Union, visit UK Federal Credit Union, federally insured by NCUA, Equal Housing Lender.